I wish I was better at this setup. Well, hopefully that looks okay. Would someone be able to tell me if you can hear me okay? Give you a little look around at the beautiful Brisbane morning. These are our protesters. I think there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Got up early on a Sunday to try and shelter women. Anyway, they're over there, and there are heaps of police. We've got police down there, and quite a few up there as well. So we should be able to have a peaceful.
Are you
Yeah.
I can't see it.
It says I'm live.
Travis Scarlett. Is it you honorary?
Who?
Is it you honorary?
Yeah.
It's not showing.
It says live on here. There's 3 people watching, so it must.
I wonder why. Let me check too. Oh, I'm just going to say that. Oh, wait. Yes, I can see it. But there's no. Oh, okay. You know, no, nothing. Look at the woman up here live. I was heard you say sorry. You know, I'm saying no, nothing.
We've got 19 people watching. Hi guys. Hi guys. Just gonna start soon. You're on you. That's your face on the screen. You need to hold it that way.
So we're doing Women Up Live.
Are you on me now?
We're almost ready to go. I told you. Dickheads are over there around the family as usual. And boy, and his bag of everything.
Let's give you a look before we start. They just don't look well, do they? Hi.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we had to sort of say we were invited to come here. Yeah.
Oh.
No, they'll open it up. They just need to right. Oh, okay.
Please, yeah.
Protect you. Yeah, yeah. Did you ask them to come?
Yeah, we get them every time.
Yeah, no,
What's your name? I'm Leah. Leah.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
You know, we have to have policy. Yeah. First time they did it. Yes, yes.
Should we start, Sue?
What a new government now. The direction to get the
We're starting in a moment. Should we start?
Yes. Is everybody ready?
Gather round, ladies and gentlemen. Is that the loudest it can go?
It's not very loud.
But I am losing my voice.
Oh, okay. We'll just make sure the volume's right up.
Is it? How do I do that? Oh yeah, it is. I'll just have to shout and... Ready? Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Welcome to our November Speakers Corner, everybody. For people passing by, members of the public, I want you to know that we're here to talk about defending our rights, and these people have turned up to shout us down and try to drown us out. I'm going to start by reading something that I want to tell my daughter. She's 2.5 years old. To my darling daughter, as I watch you grow, I see the incredible potential you hold and the challenges you will inevitably face. Your boundless energy and curiosity show me the innocent joy of childhood, something I hope you can hold on to for as long as possible. But alongside that hope, I carry a deep sense of responsibility to prepare you for the world you're growing up in, a world that looks very different from the one I knew. When I was a child, society cared about safeguarding spaces meant for women and girls. I could go to places that were ours alone, where we could feel safe and secure without question. Today, I find myself on edge, questioning the safety of those same spaces for you. Laws now allow any man who claims to be a woman to enter into places that should be your refuge. I never imagined that I would one day have to worry about this, yet here we are. When you were still growing inside me, I promised I would protect you with my life. That promise will never waver. I will stand guard against anything that threatens your safety or your understanding of the truth. When I was young, I didn't fully appreciate the safety and freedom I had. I climbed trees, played in the mud, revelled in the simplicity of being a child. There were no adults in position of authority trying to confuse me about who I was or suggesting that I might be somehow born in the wrong body. Yet, as you grow, I worry that those same places of authority, the schools, the medical professionals, our leaders, may fill your head with ideas that deny the wonderful natural person that you are. I want you to know that being a woman is powerful. I didn't always feel that way. When I was young, puberty felt like total chaos. I was embarrassed by the changes in my body, and I would have given anything to stop it. But now, I see the magic in my body, a body that grew you, carried you, and fed you. My breast, which once embarrassed me, gave you the nutrients and antibodies that have helped you thrive. Breastfeeding was more than about just nourishment, though. It was a connection unlike anything I've ever experienced. Holding you close, feeling your little hand rest on me, and knowing that my body was giving you everything you needed to grow, it was profound. That bond is something I will cherish for the rest of my life. It breaks my heart to know that there are people who will try to convince you that men can breastfeed, that a man can ever truly understand the experience of womanhood. They can't. They will try to rewrite the truth, but I will always be here to guide you through the noise. Only mothers breastfeed. It crushes me to know that there are children just like you who have been medicalized because they didn't fit into sexist stereotypes. Some of these children, these young girls, have been pressured into life-altering decisions, making them infertile, taking away their chance to know the wonder of motherhood. It's criminal. Some have had their breasts removed in moments of immaturity, believing that they knew what was right for them, only to realise too late that they were pushed into these decisions by a system that didn't care about them. These girls will never know the joy of breastfeeding their own children. These experiences have been stolen from them by a medical system that sees them only as a revenue stream, customers for endless treatments, not as children deserving of love and care. This isn't the path I want for you. No parent should want that for their beautiful child. It's a truth that many will try to silence, but I will never stop speaking out. No child should be pushed into medical procedures that alter the course of their life, especially when they're too young to fully understand the consequences of these decisions. You deserve the time, the space and the safety to grow into the person you're meant to be without being pressured to fit into someone else's idea of what's right for you. The truth is important. There will be many voices, some loud and convincing, but you must always listen to what is true deep in your heart. Sometimes the truth may be hard to find in a world that tries to reshape reality, but you must trust it. You must be strong in your convictions and never allow anyone to manipulate you or sway you from what you know to be right. You will be told to doubt your natural intuition, your sense of what feels right or wrong, but I want you to know, my baby girl, that your instincts are there for a reason. When someone tries to break a boundary or make you feel uncomfortable, trust that inner voice. Hold strong to your values, your self-respect. Never let anyone convince you that your boundaries are unimportant or negotiable. They are not. Never let anyone convince you that your boundaries must come second to men's desires or feelings. When I was younger, I didn't think I wanted children. The idea of pregnancy frightened me. But when you came into my life, everything changed. The world became brighter and more meaningful because you were in it. Now I feel an unshakable responsibility to fight for your future. I speak out because I refuse to stay silent while your rights and safety are eroded. I speak out because I want you to grow up knowing that your mother stood tall for what was right. The world can be confusing, and yes, at times it is unkind. But know that you are perfect just as you are. You are not born in the wrong body because you like to play in the dirt, look for bugs. You are a girl, a beautiful, brilliant and unique girl, and that is enough. Love from your mum. Who's next?
I think it's full of it. They probably need to put it back too.
Yeah, I should have bought some of them.
Oh, sorry, I pushed Hi everyone, my name is Liz. I would like to start by invoking the memory of Margaret Neveson, who was a suffragette in London in the early 20th century. Neveson spoke about the first time she had the courage to give a speech in public and said, "I started in 1906 outside a gas factory in the south of London, and I still remember how terrorised I felt. I suddenly felt dizzy as I stood up on a cart and I heard the shouts and mockery as men outside the factory gathered around us. This was 118 years ago, and here we are today, still being shouted at by men who don't like what we have to say. And it's not just men that don't like us talking, but many women also. There are a few young women who stand with us in the fight for women's rights. There seems to be no awareness of the violence, abuse, and social cost that many brave women had to endure to achieve the rights that we benefit from today. I can't understand women who instead shout the mantra, "Trans rights are human rights," a mystifying chant, as no one is able to articulate exactly which human rights this community are currently denied. They seem to have more rights and a greater platform than any other group that currently exists in Western society. Instead of supporting the call for sex-based rights, we are being told to be inclusive and be quiet. We are expected to accept these men as women just because they say they are, even though our own eyes and our female instincts, honed over thousands of years, tell us otherwise. Studies have shown that women's intuition is real and is a product of evolution, enabling us to sense danger and read subtle social cues in order to protect our children. So no matter what clothes these men wear, no matter the amount of makeup they apply, or how much surgery they undertake, no matter how much they scream at us or threaten us with violence, when it comes to our sex-based rights, we will not be inclusive and we will not be quiet. I have a message for the Labor Party, the Greens and the Teals. You have no authority to give away our rights. Our right to female-only spaces and female-only sports are not yours to give away. You don't speak for the women that have been the victims of violence or sexual assault at the hands of men and want the safety of female-only spaces. You don't speak for the women whose culture requires female-only spaces to be respected. You don't speak for elderly and frail women who want a woman carer. You don't speak for female prisoners who don't want to be housed with violent criminal men. You don't speak for the women and girls who compete in female-only sport and don't want to compete against a male. You don't speak for the parents that don't want men in their little girls' change rooms. You don't speak for my daughter, my mother, my sisters, my nieces, and you sure don't speak for me.
Woo!
Today, there are many people who remain unaware of the degradation of women's rights here in Australia. There is also little awareness of the gender ideology that is being rolled out by stealth to our children through schools and the media. And of course, this isn't just about ideology, but it's about money. It's hard to get exact figures, but what is known is that the gender ideology industry is worth billions of dollars. The sex reassignment surgery market alone is forecast to grow to nearly $7 billion by 2031. Companies like AbbVie and Pfizer are making hundreds of millions of dollars selling drugs like hormone blocker, Lupron and testosterone. There is also money to be made from the side effects of trans surgery, which can include nerve damage, chronic pain, sexual dysfunction, and of course the mental health issues when the surgery unsurprisingly doesn't fix their problems. Companies like Pfizer are not tapping into this industry because they are kind and compassionate. They are there to make money. We need to ask ourselves, is the incredible revenue to be made from medical transition and the lifelong ongoing healthcare required the reason for the rise of gender ideology teaching in schools? Is this the modern day version of the old Dolomite bank account scheme, one of the largest child marketing schemes in Australia, which also proved highly effective in gaining customers for life? That program was of course banned in 2021, but not before making the bank an estimated $10 billion. Now, I'm not saying there is a moral equivalence between child bank accounts and teaching confusing gender ideology. What I am demonstrating is the benefit of a business having a captured and impressionable market. For the medical industry, the endless supply of young customers to be found in schools who will require a lifetime of medical support is the perfect business model. To those in the medical industry, politicians, educators, parents, sporting officials, media, and all of you who celebrate gender ideology, we will not forget your role in this. History will not view you kindly, and I believe you will be judged in the same way we view those involved with institutional child sexual abuse, facilitated and covered up by government, educational and religious institutions. My final message is for our politicians, in particular Peter Dutton. We are counting on you, Mr. Dutton, as Labor, the Greens and Teals have abandoned women. We are not bigots and we are not transphobic. What we want is the return of hard fought for and won sex-based rights. We want the return of female-only spaces and female-only sports. We want confidence that our schools are not force-feeding confusing gender ideology under the guise of the curriculum. We want to live in a society where men and women can confidently challenge a man in a woman's bathroom without the threat of breaking the law. We want to live in a society that knows what a woman is and where the words that represent us are respected and celebrated. Words like woman, girl, mother. We are done with being erased and replaced with words like birthing people, pregnant people, chest feeder, menstruators, and cervix havers. It makes a mockery of the importance of women in our society. It's insulting, and when it comes to medical health, using confusing language is also outright dangerous. For everyone else, please don't give up and don't give in. The battle to protect women and girls will be won. It must be, as our children and the vulnerable women in our society are counting on us.
How pathetic is it to see a man who thinks he's a woman making so much noise to shut women down? That in itself shows that he's a man. And Trina Massey from the Council for the Gabba, shame on you! We are constantly told by governments and the trans community that a man who says he's a woman is no threat to women and children. Just have a look over there. We're not safe with those men. That is untrue, as male pattern violence does not dissipate simply because he says he is a woman. Once again, look over there. Look at Bluehead Boy. Male pattern violence is based on male biology, not a delusion in some man's head. Just recently, the Canadian province of British Columbia enacted a law to prevent dangerous criminals, including sex offenders, from changing their legal names. And the reason this was introduced is that these men's crimes would simply disappear if they changed their names. So it was a law to protect the public. But guess what? Trans activists are demanding the law be repealed, claiming it harms transgender people, so they don't give a stuff about what happens to the public. They actually claim that this law to protect all the public is transphobic, but once again, isn't everything transphobic if they don't get their way? These are dangerous criminals and sex offenders, and trans activists don't care about the threat these men are to women and children. They want these dangerous men to have unfettered access to women and children. I'm going to read out crimes committed by trans-identifying men, those that have the delusion in their head that they're a woman, that have occurred in the past month. So the last time we gathered here. Interesting that we are unable to find any crimes by women claiming they are men. A transgender baby rapist currently housed at a women's prison in Canada brutally assaulted a female inmate after she called him a pedophile. The female inmate was the one that was punished with segregation despite suffering from broken ribs. A man currently standing trial on charges of murdering his wife and 2 young children has begun identifying as a woman and has been wearing a wig to court. He is now being referred to as a woman by media outlets. A trans-identified male who claims he is a woman is on trial after being arrested for suspicion of murdering his female roommate and stuffing her body in a freezer. This man has previous convictions for child abuse and again being referred to as a woman by the media. A whistleblower has come forward to reveal that a trans-identified male who claims he is a woman, a medical professional, was placed on an all-female rehab unit. He sexually and physically harassed female patients, including one who died shortly after he assaulted her. A prominent trans-identified male politician in Taiwan has issued a threat to leak the phone numbers and addresses of women critical of gender ideology. Just another example of threatening women for saying no to men in women's spaces, trying to create an atmosphere of fear so women will shut up. A non-binary man was arrested in Oklahoma after being found in possession of 600 child sexual abuse images, some featuring girls as young as 9. He claimed he viewed child pornography because he was curious about being female. They have no logic. Make sense of that. In Argentina, a trans-identified male convicted of multiple crimes against women raped and impregnated a female inmate after being housed in women's prisons. He was transferred into a women's prison on the basis of his self-declared gender identity. And this is what these men do. As soon as they get in trouble with the law, they say that they are a woman, and then they get special treatment. A disturbed transgender pedophile convicted of making pornography involving infants has been released on parole. This trans-identifying male sex offender, who was twice convicted on charges relating to child sex abuse material, one which involved pornography of infants in nappies, has quietly been granted a statutory lease into the community. We've got to protect them, after all, they're so vulnerable. Non-binary star performer sentenced to 20 years in federal prison after creating and selling child sexual abuse material on OnlyFans and other pornography sites. During a police interview, he confirmed that he had produced 20 videos where he sexually abused minors. A judge ordered that he be placed in a prison that can provide him with gender-affirming care. An Australian trans-identified male who has pleaded guilty to aggravated counts of producing and possessing child exploitation material, gross indecency and indecent assault has been boasting in court of his plans to become famous once released from custody. Prior to being charged, he had a substantial following on TikTok as a proud trans woman. Prior to claiming he was a woman, he repeatedly abused 2 children and then stalked them and their family into homelessness. These people have no integrity. Trans-identified male sent to psychiatric hospital after being convicted of violently attacking multiple women to steal their boots. He has been sentenced to an indefinite stay in a psychiatric hospital as part of his sentence for being an exhibitionist and violently assaulting women. Trans-identified male who shared sadistic child abuse content and called for transitioning of minors will serve shortened sentence in a women's jail. A court in Canada reduced his sentence after the court decided that his transgender status made incarceration extremely difficult for him. A Canadian mother was told to be more inclusive after complaining about a male wearing a child's bikini while showering with young girls in the female changing rooms at a local pool. The man, an adult human male, was wearing a pink sparkly bikini adorned with frills, and he was wearing a princess tiara. After the mother reported the man's presence, she was told the facility welcomes and celebrates diversity. More like they join in the celebration of mental illness and enjoy opening women and children up to sexual abuse. We can all agree that the whole agenda of trans ideology is to oppress women and put them at risk. It is a woman-hating, homophobic movement that has no place in society. They can dress however they want. What they won't get is a welcome into women's and children's spaces. We say no. Who's next? Anyone else coming up to speak? Right on. I'll just put that down. It's hard. There you go.
Thank you. Thanks, Sue. I would normally write something, but I was too busy with mum life and toddler life, and just still want to stand in solidarity with the women who show up each time here, and the men who come along to support us. And, you know, Donald Trump and Pauline Hanson, they cop it because, yeah, they're conservative, they're right-wing, blah, blah, blah. But this is where we are. They're the ones speaking out against this radical theory, which is just infiltrating every inch of our society. So in Australia, Pauline Hanson is the one saying we need to stop drugging children, poisoning children, sterilising children, cutting off young girls' healthy breasts in the name of this ideology. And kudos to Pauline Hanson for refusing to stop saying those things, which the majority of the population agree with. They've put out a press release today, One Nation, talking about New Zealand and their new approach to treating children with gender dysphoria, which is fantastic for New Zealand. But it's left the federal government here in Australia increasingly isolated in its support for forcing children onto puberty blockers. They're called puberty blockers. They're just insane to pathologise and medicalise a child's natural puberty. Anybody who is interfering with a child's natural puberty should be ashamed of themselves. It is a natural part of growing up. I don't think there's anyone that goes through puberty without feeling uncomfortable, embarrassed, different, perhaps questioning everything, because that's part of growing up. Your hormones are in your body to put you through puberty, to help you grow into a man if you're a boy, help you grow into a woman if you're a little girl. Did I just get that wrong? You know what I meant. It's just part of growing up. We all felt discomfort and we all grew out of that discomfort, or if not, we grew up into young gay people, like lesbians and homosexuals, like lesbian and gay men. But One Nation's Pauline Hanson has given notice that she would not for the first time move for an urgent Senate inquiry into Australia's failure to adopt safeguards on the use of these puberty blockers, which are off-label experimental harmful drugs for gender dysphoric adolescents in line with international best practice. Senator Hanson says the number of countries realising the harms that these treatments are causing to children are only growing, and Australia is becoming isolated in its refusal to even acknowledge these critical findings. She commends New Zealand being the latest country to acknowledge the lack of evidence backing the effectiveness and safety of these treatments. And New Zealand is urging a more cautionary, holistic approach instead of the ideological gender affirmation approach, which is currently supported by the Albanese government. So in New Zealand, the Health Ministry is updating their clinical guidelines, inviting public submissions, while here in Australia, Labor and the Greens, with crossbench Senators David Pocock, Thorpe, Payman, Tyrrell and Lambie, refuse to support any form of inquiry into the issue. No debate. From 2014 to 2021, the number of minors presenting to public gender clinics in Australia increased from a handful to thousands. And when it comes to the private clinics, we've got no data, so the numbers are sure to be much higher. Senator Hanson goes on to say, if it was any other legitimate medical condition, such a rapid increase would prompt immediate action. But because this is all tied up with gender identity politics, Labor and the Greens, our mate Trina Macy over there, will not act to protect Australian children and their families from this predatory ideology. Puberty blockers have been shown to cause lifelong harms, irreversible harms. There is no reliable evidence that they are an effective solution. Any senator who refuses to support Pauline Hanson's motion for an inquiry next week will confirm their support for harming Australian children instead of helping them.
Thank you. Justin? There you go.
Okay. So, the cosplayers opposite us want you to think that their movement, the great trans hoax, is one for equal rights, for the right of men to become women, just like women have the right to be women. But even women don't have the right to be women. Being a woman is not their right. It is simply their inescapable material fact. So you men are already equal with women in that respect. Neither of you have the right to be women.
Right up there, right up there. Right
Okay. Why would women want a right to be something that exposes them to so much danger from men all over the world? But they cannot escape being a woman, so it's up to men to be safe for ourselves. And the absolute least we can do is respect the single-sex boundaries that women have carved out for themselves in our society. And no man or woman is cisgender, except the accomplices of the TQ+ who actually believe in the great trans hoax. No one ever has been cisgender before now. Why would anyone feel a need to identify with an inescapable, unchanging fact? Is there a point to identifying with water being wet? Identifying with the world being round? Cisgender is just a box for ideologues to put normal men and women, straight and gay, into to enlarge the power of the cultish ideologues. One of the arguments against the death penalty for guilty criminals is, what if the conviction was incorrect and you kill an innocent person? The gender-affirming doctors and surgeons and psychologists and school counsellors and politicians who are grooming our society into the great trans hoax should likewise be wary and cautious. Because what if the teenage boys and girls who reckon they're transgender, that these dangerous adults then stunt and sterilise with puberty blockers and wrong sex hormones, starting them on a journey that may lead to the boys and girls eventually mutilating to getting mutilating surgeries for cosmetic motives? What if these boys and girls change their minds about being transgender? Then these adults have just destroyed the body and mind and sense of self of a woman or man before he or she has even started the 50 to 70 years of their adult life. And for what? To alleviate some perfectly predictable unhappiness in the 5 years of adolescence in this modern world. Boys and girls have a right for adults to act with maturity and forbearance towards them. No one can become mentally healthy without accepting truth. Lies to yourself and to you, for you and about you from others might seem to help, but they're a short-term fix. And no one can become physically healthy without acknowledging physical truth, starting with the inescapable dimorphic differences between male and female. And the great trans hoax is all lies. Lies and ruses and partial truths, protecting disguises, covering up manipulation and aggression. Why do we care about the great trans hoax? The people over there ask. Their question is a disguise for a reductive assumption that a privilege for men to legally become women and a pseudoscience that children may want to change sex to, among other things, that has no trade-offs and costs for the common good. But we do care, and to see why, let's just count the fronts of our society that the great trans hoax is attacking on. First of all, of course, women's civil rights, safety and sports. Parents' rights and obligations. The safeguarding, nurturing and schooling of children. The civil rights of homosexual men and women. Statistical accuracy, not least in criminology. Scientific research and publishing. Medical evidence, practice and training. The legitimacy of public education and public health. The law's relationship to reality, on which the law's capacity for any justice is built. Free speech and the clarity of every society's essential common resource, language. And finally, the proper boundaries of the state, of for-profit corporations and of non-governmental organisations between each other and between them and us, the citizens. All these things, which are our tools to build and maintain a common good, these are all undermined by the extent to which the great trans hoax succeeds. The medical industry and the censorship industry vested interests behind the great trans hoax do not have the common good at heart. Their ends, like their means, is the abuse of power. That is why I care.
Thanks.
David.
I actually wrote things down so I don't start saying this stuff.
Let me just put that on.
I had something very different written until last night, but got to keep it fresh, not like a rot pocket. Adults that are gay my age get marginalised, accused of genital fetishism, discrimination, transphobia, and are socially excluded merely for not wanting to have sex with someone. The coercion is very real. Can you imagine a barely 18-year-old, and in the case of Queensland school leavers younger, I turned 17 at schoolies myself, that in the case of OnlyFans models, even if we were to believe their sometimes rhetoric, did tell these just turned not children that they were trans, what the outcome would be if they had have sexually rejected them. Even if they were totally upfront with them despite admitting lying to a journalist. We all know schoolies would have been completely sober when these young men received the information about them being a trans woman, and I guess my concern is how would that information have been delivered? If trans women are women, did they tell inebriated 18-year-olds that they were a woman? But I digress. These kids who are having essentially their first taste of freedom could have become pariahs for not agreeing if he did indeed tell them. Christ on a bike, I'm gay. And unfortunately, someone who acknowledges binaries as they're necessary for my sexuality. The marination here is very unclear. They said they were a trans woman ostensibly, but then more recently said they don't identify as a trans woman. We've since found out that they definitely a bloke, but the quote I think the best was, oh yeah, it caused some problems. Some of them only wanted oral from one of it, you know. And I'm like, how on earth can you manage to have sex by deception and still try and be a victim? Like, oh my God, like you're giving men 3 bites at the same cherry. It's gotta fucking stop. Thank you. Oh.
Okay, what about our Irish turf? Here she comes.
All right, thank you. Good morning, everyone. So my name is Gemma. I'm from Ireland, as you probably can guess from my accent. And can you hear me? Okay, that's better now. Okay. Sorry, my name is Gemma. I'm from Ireland, as you probably can gather from my accent. So I just want to briefly endorse what Narissa said there about supporting mainly conservative voices that are very much on our side. I think that's really important we do that in the current climate, simply because they are the people that are on our side when it comes to this ideology. Now, we may not agree with their policies with regard to other matters. For example, in my constituency back home in Ireland, the leader of a very conservative party called Aintu will be putting forward their candidates in the general election, which is next week in Ireland. And he's conservative Catholic, would be pro-life, but he's very much on our side when it comes to this lunacy over there. So, while I may not agree with his views on other matters, I will very much endorse him, and if I was at home I would vote for him. It doesn't matter, he will get in, no problem. He's a very well supported candidate, so I'm not going to lose too much sleep by not being there next week. So all I'm going to say is, sometimes, and I think Posey Parker has said this on a number of occasions, it's really important that if you really believe in fighting this lunacy, you will have to partner with people that you may not agree with when it comes to other policies and other matters. And you know what? When we eventually do defeat this nonsense, we will one day, because you cannot continue with this lie, this constant lie that men can become women. Then we can all go off and start having our debates and our discussions and discuss things and disagree with each other on other matters. So that's it. Thank you for listening. Thank you. Don't want to fall down.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wants to speak? No more speakers? Okay, well, we'll close for today. So thanks everyone for coming along. We want to thank the Queen's... Microphone's on. We want to thank the Queensland Police for being here to protect us, because the police aren't there to protect that mob over there. We're not violent or aggressive, they are. So thank you to the police. Also, I just want to share that something that people that know who India Willoughby is, probably one of the most dumbest men on social media, claims that women that have IVF, that it changes their biology, therefore that's sort of some sort of affirmation for these delirious men that if women have IVF and that you can claim they change their biology, that somehow they can change theirs and they can be a biological woman. They're just ridiculous. But anyway, thank you everyone for coming along. We will be here next month, so hopefully we'll see more of you then. Thank you. Turn it off. Also, anyone, can we make sure we have your email addresses so you can go on our mailing list? So if we don't have it, can you please come up and give us your email address?
Thanks everyone for watching. See you next time.
Sorry, what did I say? Leah.
That's Sue. Okay. Is that gone off?